Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Civil War Review podcast. I'm your host. Thank you very much for joining us today. So, this will be our final segment on William T. Sherman, and we're going to discuss his relationships with the generals that were under him as they moved from Tennessee down to Atlanta and Georgia. We know that there were three um, generals, major generals that were under his command, and one was George Henry Thomas, who was in charge. He was of the Cumberland Army. Thomas graduated together with Sherman from West Point in 1840. They were both friends. He was very experienced, very well known. He was a very competent general. The next general that was in charge of the Army of the Tennessee was James B. McPherson, and this he graduated at West Point in 1853, so he was younger than both Thomas and Sherman. However, he graduated first in his class, so he's a very intelligent man and very liked general. He was first in his class, and in fact, he graduated and was childhood friends with the Confederate General Hood, uh, who gave a very nice statement after McPherson was killed in battle. We'll come back and we'll talk about that. And the third general that we want to discuss is John Schofield, who was in charge of the Army of the Ohio. He also graduated in 1853, and he really disliked General Thomas. And I feel that this is where we see the strength of General Sherman. Uh, Not so much. Of course, he was a very brilliant commander and strategist. However, for me, I think it was his ability to work with these individuals to get them all together in a common goal and to keep them on track. And you can imagine the different personalities, and especially when somebody's in the rank of a general, that there's a lot of I'm sure, the feeling of you can't tell me what to do is there. And so, but we see some real antagonists with between the groups. I mean, um, General uh, Schofield was really hated General Thomas, and they would he would write reports. Oh, he messed up this, he messed up that, um, and so General Joseph Hooker was underneath uh, McPherson's uh, Army of the Tennessee, and you know Hooker graduated West Point in '37, and so he had seniority in age to all of these other men. Um, and in addition, he was quite perturbed that he was ranked pretty much two steps: Sherman, then McPherson, then Hooker. So he was, and he constantly was backbiting and trying to sabotage McPherson. In fact, there's a famous um, line incident where he sent directly to General Sherman uh, uh, that hey, we're exposed here, we're under heavy fire, et cetera, et cetera. Instead of sending that to his commanding officer McPherson, he sent it directly to Sherman. And when Sherman found out that that was fabrication, he basically told Hooker, you need to straighten up and follow orders. I think that actually kind of was part of the reason when James McPherson was killed in battle in July. Uh, he was shot and mortally wounded, and after he died, his friend General Hood of the Confederacy, who said gave a a statement that this was, you know, dear friend. And so we see that. But what happened with Hooker then was he expected to be replaced. He expected to replace McPherson, but then he was passed over, and another General Howard was put in his place, and apparently this became a big deal. According to Hooker, he wrote that he uh, said with Lincoln, got together with Lincoln, said, "Hey, I need to be the taking over the Army of the Tennessee." But in the end, uh, he was overlooked, and so he overpassed up, and so he resigned. And so you could tell that all of these, you know, I would say drama, but all of these interpersonal conflicts that are going on, Sherman kept control of the group, and he had to make hard decisions, like with Hooker, but he kept control and he moved the operations forward, which is not easy. So anyone who's ever had to deal with working with together with other people know that it's not easy to keep everyone on track and on and goal on site. So just to get kind of back at a small point that I wanted to bring up, or not a small point, it's actually a big point, is that a lot of these leaders knew each other. They attended West Point together. They fought together, maybe in the Mexican-American War, and they knew each other. Like Hood and McPherson were childhood friends, and so and even in on the Union, like McClellan and Johnston were they were very close friends before the war and even after. But still, you could see that these are dynamics that were thrown in together with the actual battles and the movements. And so we see that Sherman was a very successful general in keeping everyone under in line, and that's something that I feel is pretty important to recognize. And they were going against stiff opposition. So they were going against basically General Joseph E. Johnston, who Ulysses S. Grant said, "There's only one general I fear in this world, and that's Johnston." And rightly so. Johnston was a very, he was a great commander, great general. He knew the situation. He had no flights of fancy. He knew where he was, what he had to deal with, and how to deal with it. And we can see in his strategies that what he was doing. But unfortunately, President Jefferson Davis of the Confederacy needed he wanted to have more aggressive general. So General Hood replaced Johnston. However, before the war, I mean, right at the beginning of the war, Jefferson Davis and General Johnston were pretty like minds. They knew what they needed to do in order to succeed, which was, and so this desperation came towards the end there, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why uh, Jefferson Davis made the move that he did. Uh, but that's a talk for another time. Which next episode we will be reviewing uh, Joseph E. Johnston, the Confederate general, and we will take a look at his early life and then his plans, his thoughts, and how he coped with the war. Thank you all very much for listening. Hope you enjoyed.